Hi everybody, thank you again for joining me with Knitting with Matt. This class is brought to you by the Department of Cultural Affairs of Los Angeles, here located at the Lincoln Heights Youth Arts Center. This is our third session doing this virtual class, so I want to thank everybody for rejoining this class around, because if you haven't watched my other classes yet, please do so now. Those classes are going to help you get through all of the first steps of how to knit, how to hold your needles, how to properly cast on, cast off, how to do all of that fun stuff. This class is more of the advanced version of that class. This is supposed to just be more of a continuation of those classes. So if you haven't done so yet, please go watch those videos first. And if you have, then you're in the right spot. This class is going to be only 2 classes long. I'm going to teach you for this first session, this first class is going to be teaching just the basics of how to properly switch colors, other known as Colorwork. So for this class, this is a Colorwork class. You will be learning how to use multiple colors for the same project. So you can make different beautiful array of garments or different types of projects that you want to work on. Good example, this sweater is a 3-tone sweater. So you have black, you have the white, and then you have this cross, right? You have this tweed, I think is what it's called. You have these 2 different colors, which is black and white, but it's on the same spool of yarn. So this is 3 different tone sweaters. So if you are trying to work with different colors at the same time, this is the best way to do it. I'm going to show you all my tricks and tips and different ways that will help or troubleshoot areas that you might have. I'm going to make sure to cover all of those little things to help you get out of those situations. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so for today's class, you're going to need a pair of knitting needles. And for today's class, I am using a US 13 9mm. You will also need a threading needle. You will need your pair of scissors and 2 different color balls of yarn. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on today's project. So, just like I said earlier, this class is a continuation class from my previous classes that I have already taught how to do cast on, cast off, and all of that, so I will not be taking the time to do that today. If you need a refresher on how to do cast on and how to do cast off, please refer back to my previous videos, and those should be able to help you out. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cast on 20 stitches with my first color. Okay, first color. So I'm going to go ahead and cast these on, and I'll see you at the end. Okay, so that is 20 stitches that we have cast on our needle. So for this first part of this class, I'm going to first show you how to change colors within rows, and I'm going to show you how to do within stitches. So first thing we're going to need to do is just knit a full row of knit stitches. Okay, I will see you at the end of that. All right. I'll see you at the end of those 20 stitches. Here we go. Okay, so I have now done all 20 stitches on knit stitch, and we're going to keep doing this project in knit stitch. But now I'm going to go ahead and add on a new color. Now here is my new color. My other ball of yarn is still next to me on my right. You put this new ball in the front of your new ball, or of your old ball, excuse me, so that way they don't get tangled. I actually have a bag that has little like holes in it that keeps everything super separate. So if you get one of those bags, they're super helpful because they keep all your balls of yarn from, intertwining with each other. But if you don't have that, that's fine. Just make sure that you don't accidentally twist your balls of yarn. Always have your working yarn on the front. Okay. All right. So to add this new color, you're going to first insert, and let me go ahead and do this. So for this first part, what you're going to want to do is, remember, we're still working in knit stitch. So you're going to insert your needle just like usual. But instead of using the white yarn, you're going to introduce the new color, your second color. For me, it's this red one. So what I'm going to do is, just like before, I have, let me see if I could get it better in the frame for you. I still have a tail, just like normal. Let's make that shorter. There we go. Okay, so just how here you could see, I have the tail, the loop. I'm going to go ahead and just grab this loop here and now add it to my needle. Now, just like how we normally work, this loose end, please ignore it. Don't even use it. What you're going to use is the one that is attached to the ball of yarn. That's going to be your working yarn. So now that you have this inserted, this is considered as your first loop. You're going to want to hold on to both of those just for this first one so that it doesn't accidentally slip off. Slip it off just like you usually do. And now you have introduced your new color. Now all you have to do is just work with the working yarn, which is the one that is attached to the ball, not your free end. Leave that one alone. Okay, with the actual new color, what we're going to do is just knit like we usually do. And this is how you introduce your secondary color. Look at that. Super easy. So now you're just going to knit this whole row just like you normally would. Nothing has changed. Everything is still the same. So go ahead and knit these stitches and I will see you at the end. So we have just technically knitted row 3 of this piece, and the third stitch was where we added the new color. So we have 2 stitches here. We want to continuously do 2 rows of each color. So we're going to do another row of red. Now I'm going to take this moment just really quick just to show you the needle. If you notice, there's all of these like little loose strings and stuff like that. Don't worry. These 2 strings are going to kind of always stay there. Since we're only working in 2 rows, there is no need to cut the string. You can leave the ball of yarn attached to the needle while you're working, and then you don't have as many loose ends that you're going to have to tie up later. This is one of my ultimate tricks where I don't have to do that extra work. I technically do the work as we go. So I recommend you doing it this way so that way you don't have to tie all these little loose ends everywhere. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and now knit this row 4. We're going to knit row 4 in all the same color red. And if you notice, the white color is still on the left now. Don't worry about that. Don't let that bother you. Don't even, just ignore it for now. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just work with the working yarn, which is your red yarn, your secondary color. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and knit this next row. I will see you at the end for where we have to change colors again. All right, here we go. Okay, so we are coming close to the end here. You're going to just knit this last stitch just like you normally would. Okay, now you have this weird junky junk. I'm going to make sure to help you guys clean this up. The best thing for you to do, if you ever notice that these last few stitches, especially where you just added 2 new colors, if you notice that it's all janky like that, don't worry, it's okay. All you have to do is, and I recommend you putting your needle down, holding it with your hand, and pull that loose end. This is the loose end that I told you to ignore. Now this time you're not going to ignore it for a quick second. You're just going to pull this string so that now you could see, and here, I'm going to actually undo that and give you guys a close-up of that so that you could fully see what I mean by that, because it's going to happen to you quite often and you just don't want this stitch to fall off the needle. So what we do to solve that issue is we're going to pull this string, and now you could see this stitch, it's going to pull everything nice and tight. Look at that. The other one that you want to pull is this white one. Again, lay it flat, hold the stitches down, and just gently pull while everything starts to nicely go together. Once you have that, and once you kind of readjust everything, you're good to go. It should start looking like normal. Look at that. Boom. Okay, so now you're going to flip the needle just like usual, but now here is where things change. Okay, this is the current working yarn that you had, and these are the loose ends. I'm just moving those to the side so that way you get a clearer shot. Okay, so now you have your two colors, right? Instead of continuing on with the red, we want to work with the white. So now all you're going to do is you're just going to pick this up. Don't even look at this anymore. All you got to do is ignore it. And now just pick this one up and continue knitting like you normally would. So remember, we're just knitting this whole project in knit stitch. So now I'm going to go ahead and if you notice this yarn, and this is very important, this yarn, which is your previous yarn now, make sure that's in the back. This one should be in the front. So it shouldn't look like this, or else you're going to get it all twisted. It should look like this. Okay, now that you're working with the new color. Okay, so now you're going to yarn over just like usual, slip stitch that off, and you are good to continue on. Look at that. Now you have changed colors without having to snip off that other loose end. You could just continue working now. It's super easy to do it that way. I would recommend you all doing it that way, just so that way you don't have to worry too much about it. It makes it a cleaner, way much more of a cleaner seam, because that's a big thing. I don't like having my seams being shown. So this way you don't have to show any seam. Now look at that. You're all knitting in two different colors. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to knit those 2 rows again to get to the next color so that I could show you all again how to change colors one last time. And then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do by stitches. All right, so first 2 rows. Let's go ahead and do those 2 rows. All right, here we go. Okay, we are coming close to the end here on this last one. All right. There we have it. I'm going to, again, just like I showed you earlier, I'm going to go ahead and just pull those strings, those loose ends, to make sure that those stitches are nice and tight. Now, I want to show everybody really quickly, because you are all probably thinking like, what the heck is this? This is what we are known as the wrong side. Okay, so yes, you can clearly see that these colors have changed here, but this isn't technically the look that we want. Now, when we flip it to the other side, look at that, how beautiful this looks. Straight line, okay? And again, no seams on the end. You don't have to worry about loose seams there, because I just taught you how to do it where you can easily switch colors without having to cut your more loose ends. Now, if you do projects where the rows are further apart, so let's say if you're doing like 9 to like 18 rows to whatever, how many rows, you cannot use this method to change colors. This is only meant for when you're doing up to 4 rows, maybe even 5 you might be able to get it away with, depending on how thick the yarn is. But for something like this, I wouldn't go more than like 4 rows for sure. So just a heads up before you think that you could do it for any project, you can only do it for little by little, smaller increments of rows. You can do this, or even again, smaller increments of stitches, but we'll get into that in just a second. I'm going to do one more row of the red all the way across now that we have done 2 more rows of the white. I'm going to do 2 more rows of the red, and then I'm going to show you how to do stitch by stitch colors, okay? But I want to take another moment to show you guys a real good close-up of how to do this color switch, just in case if you did not catch it that first time. I want to make sure that you are getting a real good, nice close-up shot of that. I know that a lot of you have requested for closer shots, so I'm just trying to make sure that I am listening to y'all. All right, so remember you have these two. Here, let me zoom out just for a quick second. There we go. Remember, you have, this is just your loose end. That I'm going to move all the way to the side. Actually, I'm going to move it underneath of it just so that way you don't see it for the shot, for just the recording purposes. There we go. So again, you always want to make sure that this one stitch is at least as tight as it can be. Okay. This is your working yarn for the second color. This is your working yarn for the first color. So since we are not using that, we're moving that to the back. We're using this to the front. Okay. And now we're just going to insert here. Let me go ahead and do that zoom close up for you. I'm going to go ahead and insert my needle just like usual. Okay. And now with that secondary color, you are going to, oh, this is a little difficult without getting myself in that shot. There we go. Okay, so now you're going to just yarn over with that new color and just stitch, knit stitch just like usual. So slip that back needle to the front, slide that stitch off, and you're good to go. That was it. You have just knitted with your secondary color again. So again, no seams, no having to tie in loose ends. Now, if you notice, this one stitch is already starting to be loose. Now, instead of me just knitting all the way across the row and not tightening it like until the very end, you might end up with a really loose end. So I like to actually pull this a little tight and then pull this again to tighten that stitch up, because now look, now that stitch looks nice and beautiful and nice and tight. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and knit through this whole entire row in that secondary color. Okay, color B, if you want to call it whatever you want, but that's the secondary color. I am going to go ahead and just knit this all the way through for 2 rows, and I will see y'all at the end. Okay, so I have officially done 2, 4, 6, 8 rows of what we call a 2x2 switch color for colors for Colorwork. And this is your right side, so this is how it should look. Again, correct side. Wrong side, as you could tell. I mean, this looks cool too. Some people actually looks like this. I pretty much dig it, but some people don't like what this looks like. So a lot of the times people call this the wrong side, because what they're actually trying to do to make it look like that, where they're nice and clean striped. Okay. Now, moving on, I want to show you now how to do a 1x1 color switch for each of these stitches. And the best part about this is again, you already have your 2 working yarns embedded in the work already. Again, you don't have to cut more loose ends and keep cutting these and keep doing that. You don't have to do that. This, you just work 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. I kid you not, super easy. So we're going to start off with this one, we don't want it to be red. We want it to start off with white. So what we're going to do is, again, move one color to the front, the other color to the back. No matter what, this will never change from this point on. If your red is in the front, keep it in the front. If your white is in the back, keep it in the back. Vice versa. If your first color is in the front and your second color is in the back, make sure that that is the order that it's always staying at as you're doing this next session of 1x1 color switch, okay? Okay, so again, we're gonna go ahead and start knitting. And again, you're gonna insert your needle just like normal. You're gonna start off with this white color because we wanna start it off with white. Make sure you pull both colors to make sure that that first stitch is nice and tight. That's always going to be the case for that first stitch. You don't have to always do that for all the other ones, but that first one, you're always going to make sure that that stitch is nice and tight, okay? All right, so we just did white. I'm going to drop the white, grab the red, and now the colors have been put into place. Now you're going to go ahead and knit stitch like normal, but now you're using that second color. Drop that second color, pick up that first color, knit stitch like normal. Okay, drop that first color, pick up the second color, go ahead and knit like normal. You're gonna do this all the way across. And here, let me go ahead and do a zoom in for you guys, for those of you who would want to zoom in. Okay, you're gonna use that first color again, okay? You're going to insert the needle first, yarn over, knit stitch like normal. Drop that first color, pick up the second color. Go ahead and slip that needle in, yarn over, slip stitch off. Tight, pull that a little tight, drop that second color, pick up the first color. And now all you're going to do is you're going to do this all the way to the end of your work. Okay, till there's no more stitches. You're going to go one by one by one by one by one. And as you could tell now on the finished needle on your right, look at that. It's already showing the different colors, one by one by one by one by one. So let's go ahead and continue this pattern until you are done with it at the very end, and then I'll show you what to do there. I will see you there. All right, we're coming close to the end here. I'm on these last two stitches. I'm going to go white and then red. And with this red one, just to show you, just like normal what you just did before, you're just going to knit like normal. You're free. You're going to flip that over, and now you have this. Okay. Now, this time what we're going to do is we're going to, again, do the red with red, white with white, all the way across. Okay. Red with red, white with white, all the way across. Okay. Because we're doing one by one, all the way across. Okay. Okay, so coming to this last one, remember red with red, white with white. You're going to yarn over, cast off, and boom, there you go. You have created your first row of one by one color change. Okay, so now that we have done that, I'm going to go ahead and do this again for about 5 more rows. Actually, no, I lied. Sorry. For 3 more rows. Sorry, I miscounted. So we're going to go ahead and continue this again, this one by one color change all the way across for 3 more rows. And after those 3 more rows, we're going to go ahead and do a different pattern. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get started on this next row. This would be row 2 of this one by one color change. Here we go. Okay, so we are coming close to now the end. This is the last stitch. Okay. So now that we have done that, I'm going to kind of spread this out so you can kind of sort of see it, because it's a little hard to see. But do you see how now that you have done the 1 by 1 by 1, you are getting these stripes going, vertically. That was exactly what we wanted. We wanted to get a stripe, these stripes, to go vertically. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually do 2 more rows of this so that way we can really see it on camera. You guys don't have to do that. You could wait for this next fast forward part. If you want to do the extra 2 rows, go ahead and do the extra 2 rows. But I'm going to do those just for recording purposes. So here we go. I'm going to do 2 more rows. I will see you at the end of those. Okay, so now that we have gotten those 1 by 1 stripes in, we're going to continue. I'm actually going to go ahead and do 2 more rows of this so that way we can see it better on the recording. You don't have to do that. You could just wait for this one fast forward to happen. Unless if you want to do it, then go ahead and do 2 more rows. I'm going to do the 2 extra rows, again, just for recording purposes. All right, so here we go. Okay, so now that I have gotten to the end of those 2 rows, you can actually see a little better what I meant where it looks like there's stripes here. I'm going to just hold it like that for you. Do you see how you can see the stripes there? Yeah, that's exactly what we were looking for. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 by 1, but we're going to do 1 by 1 opposites. So that means that on the whites, you're going to do red, and then on the reds, you're going to do right. So if you're not using red or white, it would be color A. If you see a color A, you're gonna knit a color B. If you see a color B, you're gonna knit a color A. Okay, so you're just basically alternating those colors as you're knitting them. Okay, so just to show you this really quick, and I'm gonna actually give you guys again first I'm gonna do it regular. So just to show you, remember again, you do not want your strings to get tangled. Okay, so first I'm going to insert that needle just like normal, and instead of using the white, I'm going to use the red since this is a white stitch. Okay, color A, I'm going to go with color B, and since now that's a color B, I'm going to go with the color A. Okay, I'll show you that again here. Yarn over, and again you're doing the opposite. So if you see one color, you're going to do it with the other color. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and switch this one, but I'm going to go ahead and give you guys that close-up that you guys have been asking for. Again, I'm going to go ahead and do insert needle, and instead of knitting with the white, I'm going to knit with the red. Okay, so there you go. And then again, red, color 1 to color 2. And now you're just going to do this all the way across the needle until you have no more stitches no more, and I will see you at the end. All right, we're coming close to the end here. And just like before, you're just going to knit that last stitch like usual, tighten that last stitch, and there you have it. You have created now that 1 by 1 alternating knit stitch. Now, just to show everybody, I'm going to take a quick moment just to show everyone. Do you notice how when we first started, it's like super wide and now it got swoop inward? The reason for this is because remember, we've talked about tension before. Certain stitches are way tighter than other ones. So when you're just doing a normal knit stitch, it's actually very breathable. It's stretchy. But when you're alternating colors, the extra yarn that's being fed through is actually tightening your work inward. So just keep in mind that when you are working with stuff like this, that this does tend to happen, which is why we make swatches. This is exactly why I actually had you make this swatch this first time instead of like actually creating a full-on project, because I wanted you to actually physically see that there is a huge difference. Like, look at that dramatic difference. Okay, so now continuing on, I'm gonna, just like before, I'm gonna alternate colors. So instead of me doing the red with red and white with white, you're gonna do white color A with color B and vice versa, color B with color A. Never use the same color together, okay? Make sure that they're always the opposite color. So if this is white, I'm gonna go ahead and knit with red. Okay, and just to show everyone, if you saw me just do that, I reorganized that yarn just to make sure, because they were like this. Hold on, let me move this one out of the way because that's just the tail. They were, just a second ago, the white was in the front and the red was in the front and the white was in the back, but I needed to be the other way around. So all I did was I just moved those yarns around so that way those are organized correctly. And now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and just pick up this yarn like usual, knit that stitch off, drop that first color and just pick up that secondary and just keep on doing a 1x1 alternate stitch. Okay, 1x1 alternating color. All right, so I will see you at the end of this row. Actually, we're going to be doing this for another 3 more rows. So I will see you at the end of all, actually, excuse me, 2 more rows. Including this one would be 3. Not including this one would be 2 more. All right, I will see you at the end of those few rows. Okay, so we have gotten to the end here, and now you could kind of, if I stretch this out, you could kind of see better like the patterns that are in the inside. As you could see, these are stripes, straight stripes downward, while these alternate. Do you see that? These alternate the colors. These go straight down. These change colors. You can see these better if you use a, what's it called? Excuse me. You could actually see this way better if you use a fabric stitch or a instead of using a stockinette stitch, since that's what we're using right now. And you can see it better for certain patterns, but like for this particular project, you can see the color of the changes like at the beginning. These stripes work really good. I know it looks like we did a 1x1 stripe instead of doing a 2x2 stripe, but that is not what happened. If you actually stretch it out, it actually went 1x1 this way, which is what you can see here. You have the red and the white being separated there. And then up here, when you did the 1x1 stitch, it alternates. So it goes white up here, white down here, white up here, red, 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 red. So it's kind of a zigzag if you see that. I'm trying to hold that. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. This is better. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you those stitches because some of them you can't see. So I'm going to show you from the beginning. This is our 2x2 stitching that we just did. Beautiful. Then we're going to move up here, and we did the stripes, the 1x1 stripes. I know you see these overlays, like the white stripe overlays, and I see how they look like that. In technicality, that is not the stitch. If you pull it so you could see it, now you can actually see that. I know it looks still kind of like that they're stripes, but in technicality, you went 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, and each one has its own different row of colors. So see how each one has its own color? That's the stripes that I'm talking about. Now the last thing that we just did, see how this is the working needle here. If you were to pull this up, if you look at it, everything actually zigzags. So you have the white, 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 and then same thing with red. If you look at the red up here, if I stretch it out a little bit more, let me actually spread those out for you so you can clearly see that. There you go. So now you can actually see it, right? So here you have red, red up here, red down here, red up here, red down here, and then again white, 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 white. It goes up, it goes down, up, down, up, down. So it's because you're alternating those colors. Isn't that cool? So some of these stitches require you to like fully spread them out to see them. For this particular exercise, I was just trying to get you guys to get used to having to switch colors. Okay, on the next project, we're actually going to be able to use these colors to make our first actual garment, which I will show you in the next class. But other than that, now all you have to do is cast off. Now this is very important since you are doing a 1x1x1x1. You have to cast off in the exact same pattern. Since we were doing a 1x1 alternate color work, we have to go ahead and keep with that pattern while casting off. So let me go ahead and show you this. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more of a close-up. So you're going to go ahead and knit doing the alternate stitch. Okay, that first one and that second one just like normal, and just like normal you're going to do a normal cast off. Okay, but now that you have white here, ignore that, because the next thing that you're working with is white here, which means you should be switching to the red color there. So just like you usually do with that 1x1 alternating color, go ahead and alternate the color, yarn over that, and go ahead and do the next one. So again, this is red. So now what we need to do is do white. There we go. White. So we're going to do our normal knit stitch. We're going to go ahead and knit this. We're going to go ahead and slip it off. Now you have those two stitches just like normal, and you're going to go ahead and yarn over, cast off, and then you're good to go. And now we're going to continue. And remember to always pull those a little tight to make sure that those stitches are holding on to that for dear life. All right. Again, you're alternating colors, yarn over, good to go, alternate color, yarn over, cast off. I'm actually going to do this with you all to the very end, just so that way you can actually see me doing this a few times, because I know for some people casting off could be a little terrifying. But don't worry, I promise you, you'll get used to it. Again, like I've always said before, it's all about the comfortability. Okay, however you feel comfortable being able to move those stitches around is how you should move those stitches around. Okay, as long as you get the end result that you want, that's all that matters. Okay, again, just showing you how to do this cast off. There you go. Okay. I'm using these moments to take a moment to be able to show you guys all the close-ups that you all begged for from the first one. So I want to make sure I'm getting all of that footage in now. Just that way I go, oop, I almost knitted with the wrong one. Always alternate your colors, guys. Always alternate your colors, everybody. All right. Again, yarn over. Oops, sorry guys. I'm trying my best to try to keep it on camera. Wow. Okay, so slip in that needle, yarn over. You're going to move that needle from the back to the front and just slide off. And now go ahead and do your next cast off. Continue doing this all the way to the end. I'm going to work a little faster, so I apologize if I'm moving too fast, but I did those a few times pretty slow. All right, so we're coming close to the end here. I only have these last 2 stitches, so just like normal, alternating those colors. Don't forget, alternate those colors. So now that this is red, we're gonna yarn over with white. Okay, so now you have your last 2 stitches, and just like normal, you're gonna go ahead and do your cast off. Okay, and now this is where your scissors come into play. Let me zoom out. There you go. So now we have our scissors. We're gonna go ahead and cut off about like, I don't know, like a half yard, I guess. Not even that much. You don't need that much. Just a nice little tail. Okay, after you have cut that off, remember you got to keep that stitch on there just as a reminder, and you're just going to go ahead and pull. And the best thing for you to do, actually, before you pull, I lied, don't do that just yet. Now what you're going to want to do is also cut the red one, as well as, since you just cut the white one. And what I do, I kind of cheat, I actually go ahead and I put this one in here. So that way when you pull the white one, it locks everything into place for both colors. There we go. All right, and there you have it. You have officially done your cast off on your 1x1 ribs, or excuse me, 1x1 color switch. And that's your final work. You have your 2x2x2x2, then you have your 1x1x1, same color combination, 1x1x1x1, and then again, remember you have, I feel like I need to do the zoom in for that. So again, you have your stripes where they go 1x1x1 here, 1x1x1, as you can see that, 1x1x1, and then you have your 1x1 alternate, how they zigzag there. So they go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and there you have it. This is your color, your first ever Colorwork swatch. Congratulations. Now, before we call it completely done, we want to be a little bit professional about it. We got to get rid of all these little loose ends. So just like normal, you're going to go ahead and use your trusty little threading needle. You're going to go ahead and insert that. And you want to keep with the colors. So try to make sure that you're always weaving in your ends with the same exact color, so that way people don't see your work. You always want to try to hide that. Ugh, come on. There we go. All right. So there's one color. Don't need that extra end. So we're just going to go ahead and snip that off. Okay, now we're going to do this other white loose end, and we're going to weave that into the white section of this. Again, you're wanting to keep with your color combinations as best as possible. So if you're, since this project's only requiring you to use 2 colors, make sure that you are weaving in all your ends with the proper color, or else it's just gonna look really janky, and that's not what we want. Okay, so remember to just weave in these ends, y'all. I'm using a wool blend. It's giving me a little bit of issues. You know how much I love my wool, but if it's gonna give me that many problems, like, come on now. There we go. I don't know what happened there, guys. Okay, so we have that one end. I'm going to go ahead and snip that loose end off. Great. And again with the other side, red with red, white with white. This gets very difficult when you're doing 1x1 stitch patterns. So what I normally do, so that it doesn't look as like you're kind of messing with the color scheme, the best thing for you to do is to actually go ahead and weave this in to the edges. Sorry, give me a second, there we go. Just to weave it into the edges because it's easier to hide it there. So I tend to just weave in all my ends into the red section that you see. There you go. Pull just like normal. Weave in that end, kind of zhuzh it a little bit to make sure people can't see it, and then go ahead and snip off that loose end. And now we got one last long one. One last long one that I don't need to be that long. So I'm going to trim it down, thread it through my threading needle. And then again, I'm only going to go over it into the white section. So here is my white section. Weaving it into a few of those stitches. And remember, just for this purpose, I'm not going to go too crazy on the weaving. Normally I do, but there's no need for it today. Okay, then after that, then you're going to go ahead and snip that off. And there you have it. You have your complete little swatch. And this is a good reference to have when you're ending up to do color changes, especially if you're deciding to switch stitches or if you're going to decide to do different types of colors. Again, this is how I actually made this particular sweater where it was 2 different colors. So as you can see, this is literally what I just did. Look at that. Boom. Let me switch this around. Just like that. See, white to red. 2 different colors. So anyways, I hope that this class was super helpful for your first ever colorwork class. The next one, we're going to do a full-on garment. This was just your beginning practice. If you feel like you need to continuously practice, make your swatch bigger, make it longer. Heck, make a scarf if you would like. But just go ahead and use this lesson to get you through the portions of how to properly switch colors. And then for the next class, I will show you how to actually make your very first garment. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.